So I'll show you a little bit about how these buttons function, and then get into some of the details. If you have a survey shot collected, and you tap on the Bluetooth button, it'll ask you to select the device. This one is serial number 3219. So if you haven't already paired your Disto-X with the Android device, it might ask you to pair. If it's already paired, it'll show up as an available device. You can tap on it. Oftentimes it asks you to re-enter the PIN. The default, if it does ask you for a PIN, is 0000. And then once it's connected, this will turn green, and you'll see the Bluetooth icon on the Disto-X flashing, and data will be downloaded. If you're using analog instruments like Suntus, you can use this plus button, and you can use that to add data manually, so you can add the distance, azimuth, and inclination. You can also go into survey shots and add the left, right, up, and down data. One thing to be aware of is the Qave software only supports metric units at this time. So even if your Disto-X is in imperial units, like the distance here is 11.2 feet, that last shot was imported in meters. So it shows here the distance is 3.42. So if you do the conversion, that's the distance in meters. You can see that the azimuth and the inclination are in the same units of degrees. But by default, the sketch page has a grid pattern, and the reference unit is in meters. So everything in the software is in metric units. So back on this main data tab, you'll see a list of survey shots with the from and to stations, and you'll see below that the survey data, distance, azimuth, and inclination. Now for some of these, you'll see an arrow on the right, and so there's additional data here that's not necessarily survey shots. If you tap on the arrow, it'll expand the individual shots, and so many of these are splay shots, so they have a from station, which will be in this case A2, but they go to a wall or something rather than to another survey station. So it'll show the individual splay shots under here, and then if you scroll down, the last three measurements here are repeat shots. So those, when you have three shots that are within a certain tolerance, that indicates to both the Disto-X and to the software, the Qave software, that that's a survey shot, not a splay shot. So you see the distances, they're not exactly the same, but they're within a fairly close tolerance. Same thing with azimuth and inclination. And then that gets registered here as the next survey shot. So when it sees three in a row that are similar, it identifies that as a survey shot. If it's not a survey shot and they are display shots, you can go in and manually change that. But the software is set up to recognize three repeat measurements as a shot instead of a splay. Any one of these measurements, if you tap and hold, you get a menu comes up and you have some options. You can move splays. You can edit the shot. Go in and change values. You can add left, right, up, and down data for it. And you can also go in and delete a shot if you need to. So from the main list of survey shots, you'll see most of these are gray. The last station, A7, is a green dot. That means that's the active station. And all that means is that as new data is downloaded, it'll use A7 as the from station. So any new survey data will be attached to that station. If you want to change the active station, if you've done a survey down to A7 and that's a dead end, and then you go back to say A3, and you're going to do a side passage survey off of A3, if you tap and hold, you can come down and set as active, start here, and that'll change that to a green dot. So now any new survey data will be attached to station A3. You can also tap these other stations and they'll turn, one at a time, they'll turn red. And red means it's not the active station, but it's sort of the selected station. And that can be useful if you want to do sketch around that station, or you want to say add a cross section. That becomes the center point in the sketch. So in this case, we selected station A5 as our selected station. If we go to the sketch and we hit this target thing, it'll center, and it'll center on station A5. So if we're looking for a particular station in any of the sketches, and that can be profile as well, again, if we hit the target button, it'll center on station A5. If you want to make changes to a survey shot, you can tap and hold, and again, menu will come up. You can set it as the active station. You can reverse the direction, so if it was a back sight instead of a front sight, you can change the direction 180 degrees. You can change if it's set as a survey station and you want it to be a display, you can change that. And again, you can edit the details of that survey shot.